Hello.
Hello. Welcome to the second episode of Create Package Shenanigans, with me, your local insane person with way too much time on their hands. Under the first video, I got a couple comments asking for a demonstration of the technology in action, because apparently the little binary decoder thing at the end wasn't actually enough. So I decided to kill two birds with one stone here, and tackle the mechanical crafter. First, because it's kind of the big thing that I teased in the video as the use for all of this. And second, because after I thought about it a little more, Crafter is actually way harder to automate than I thought. So this video serves both as a showcase for all of the technology that I discovered in the last video, as well as an apology to the Create gods for underestimating their stupid puzzle. Alright. But before I just throw that design onto your feet and say, hey, cool, I'm gonna just quickly, and by quickly I mean like half the video, talk about why and how and yeah. So that hopefully by the time that I'm through with that segment and we get to actually showcasing the completed system, you should be able to understand it. With 3x3 crafters, you can use a packager to unpackage packages created by a factory guard setup like this with the crafting recipe. And this package also contains information on what slots the item should go into. So if I put it into here, you can see that the items were placed in the correct slot and that the crafter also started crafting even though two of the slots were not occupied. This system only works for recipes that fit inside of a 3x3, which of the mechanical crafting recipes, that is exactly 0 of them. So we need to be able to automate larger crafters, but the problem is that CreateMod stops helping us with the packager with that, which means that we have to implement basically everything in here ourselves. To do that, we have to implement two things. We have to cover slots that aren't being used in our crafting recipe, and we have to be able to place the items in a sequence across all of the unlocked slots where it builds the correct shape for our recipe. Locking and unlocking the crafter is comparatively easy, even though it is one of the largest portions of that system over there. The idea is we have a deployer that is controlled by a redstone link, and is also monitored by a smart observer which feeds the result into another redstone link. And then we have this sort of companion module over here that can be tiled every block, and that basically receives the data from the smart observer and converts it into an instruction for the deployer. So currently we have set it to keep the slot locked, and the slot is locked, so the deployer is not doing anything. But if we grab a button and tell it to unlock the slot, you can see that the deployer has started cycling and has taken out the slot cover. And now that the slot is uncovered, and we want it to be uncovered, it is now, again, not doing anything. We can then use specific name patterns to determine if, for a given package, a given slot should be locked or unlocked, pull that out of the package name using smart observers with package filters, and then transfer it to this sort of system here. And if you tile that up 21 times, you get a fully encodable crafting surface that you can fit all of your recipes into. To understand the second problem, I have laid out this sort of prototype crafting area. The goal here is to automate crushing wheels. I'll be throwing in the items manually to emulate them being inserted by something else. First of all, if we just insert the items in an uncontrolled sequence, we get something like this. If we shuffled the items around, this would be a crushing wheel. It obviously is not a crushing wheel. What we actually need to do is we need to insert the items in a controlled sequence. So the result builds the pattern that will craft our crushing wheel. And there we go. We can actually break this problem into two separate problems as well. The first one is converting a sequence of redstone pulses into actual items that we can put into the crafter. And the second one is reading out that sequence of redstone pulses from the package name. Turning a series of redstone pulses into items was actually not that hard, which is why I'm showcasing it first. The initial system, which is this thing right here, made an assertion that whatever order the items come in, it would probably be consistent. At that point, I'd mainly worked with manually created packages, and those always follow the order in which items are inserted into the container that the packager is drawing from. So I made the assumption that that would be the same for automatically created packages. Let's just run through that. We're making crushing wheels here as well. We have input our items in a sequence, and they were split up across these little strips of belt here, with a brass belt funnel drawing from each of them with a stack size limit set to 1. We can now use this circuitry up here to withdraw items from each of these systems. If I want to withdraw an item from bucket 0, press the button here, and that's an andesite alloy. And if we were to insert this sequence here into a crafter, it would build the crushing wheel pattern. Just like that. We are using 8 buckets here. The reason why I chose 8, because 8 as a power of 2 is a very nice number to work with when you're using binary. And this system here converts a signal strength from 1 to 8 into one of these funnels unlocking for 2 game ticks. This system here with the pulse repeater and the comparator going into it generates a pulse of signal strength 1 through 8 every time this button is pressed. And what that pulse will then do is, on one hand, it'll go into this comparator here. Pulse signal strength will decay by 1 and will then be output onto this wire here. On the other side, it gets subtracted from 8 and is output onto this wire here. That will leave a maximum of 1 of these funnels unlocked. So currently we are outputting 8 on this side and 0 on this side. If I up this by 1, we are now outputting 7 on this side, but still 0 on this side, because the redstone has to decay once before being output onto this side. Now we are unlocking this first funnel here. If I crank it up by 1, we're outputting 2 here. It decays into 1. It's output as 1. And we are subtracting 2 from 8, which means 6. 6 decays on this block, which means that from that side, this block here is unpowered as well. Now the second funnel here is unlocked. And 0 is just the state where all funnels are locked. This is very convenient for encoding later. As I already teased before, things didn't go that well when I was building this. Mostly because the assumption that I made, where the order of items coming from the package is the same every time, that was actually wrong. That's not how that works. In my testing, it did work like that, because for some reason I just got insanely lucky. But in practice, the order can just be whatever. So we need to be able to order the items externally. We are not allowed to rely on the sequence with which they come out of the package. To fix that, I included a minecart contraption with deployers in our package to set the filters for our crafting recipe. And the reason why I could do that without worrying about impacting the amount of items that we can put in it is that with our encoding system only allowing for 8 buckets, we have 1 slot that cannot be used by any recipe. And that 1 slot is now repurposed to carry the minecart contraption. Before we start unloading the package contents into the brass tunnel contraption. We will quickly place down the contraption. It sets the filters on all of the brass tunnels, and then pick it back up again. And once we then unload the items will go into the brass tunnel and will come out at the place where their filter is. So our order is now consistent instead of relying on the shaky output order from the package. The item sequencer looks like this. It's a little bit compacted and maybe a little bit unreadable as well, but I'll try my best to explain it. The idea is that inside of the system here, we have a belt loop that is running first this way, then turning around and going back. The first run is going underneath all of these smart observers here. These smart observers each contain 1/2 of the bit checking pattern for a base 32 system. So this observer here contains 1/2 of the pattern. And there's actually another observer hidden behind here that contains the second half. And because they are both placed directly adjacent to a piston, that piston will OR the results from the two observers together and effectively make the two act as one big pattern. We had to save space for question marks at the front in order to make our data string long enough to encode all of the possibilities. We are reading 3 characters at a time in our system, which in a base 32 system is the equivalent to 15 bits. And those 15 bits are then split up into 5 pairs of 3, and as you remember from before, pair of 3 bits, 2 to the 3, 8 items that we can choose from. You might be able to see where this is going. The way that this system here works is we have 3 pistons, each of them controlling a composter with a different fill level. This composter here is set to subtract 4, this one here is set to subtract 2, and this one here is set to subtract 1. And we're feeding them all through this subtraction chain here, and the result is then input into this redstone wire down here, which is usually permanently powered at level 15 by this pulse repeater over here. We then invert that once again by subtracting it here, and that means that as long as this pulse repeater here is powered, the resulting signal strength here is 0. But as soon as it's not powered anymore, this barrel here only outputs a signal strength of 14. Which means that the range of numbers that we can get from this system is a 1 through 8. I'm just going to break the comparators here to illustrate these being pushed upwards. The effect is the same. So if this piston has fired, we get signal 7. If this piston has fired, we get signal 6. If this piston has fired, we get signal 4. And then we combine all of those signals to be able to determine a unique combination of bits. So, for example, all of them off would be 1. We can then make 2 out of that. We can make 4 out of that. We could make 6 out of it like this. 5 like this. And so on. These numbers here don't map 1 to 1 to the result of converting the pattern here into binary. But we don't actually care about the mapping 1 to 1. We just care that each number is mapped to exactly one other number. So as long as we're not getting duplicates, we are happy with whatever the system outputs. In the final system, there's a redstone link here, and that is both powered from this comparator down here and from all of the subsequent modules that follow. The tiling pattern here is that we have the next module starting below this barrel with this redstone dust being powered by this pulse repeater and these 3 comparators. And the result is going straight into this block where it's then redirected by the target, and the redstone link that'll be sitting on the face of that target block can pick up on that signal. The subsequent modules off of this one are fed in through this comparator here. Now there is some crosstalk between the modules, mainly because this redstone wire is also going into this comparator, But that doesn't actually matter, because if that redstone dust is on, this module will have already submitted its signal strength. This comparator getting a rogue subtraction operation doesn't actually matter that much. We also need to push the composters back down, and that's what this system in the back here is for. We have a pulse repeater, which is being fed from this redstone torch here, and that is powering this redstone dust, that is powering all of these 3 pistons, and the use of that is just to make the system reset after the pulse has been accepted by the system over here. So as the packages run across here, the smart observer detects it, the system waits for the package to arrive all the way underneath this observer so we can read all of the information from it. We then quickly unpower this redstone dust so the signal can propagate to the redstone link, and then we power this pulse repeater, which powers the redstone dust and makes all the pistons push the composters back down. And that makes the system ready for the next round. The same happens with the next module and the next and the next and the next. So each time we rotate the package around here, we get 5 pulses with different signal strengths. And those signal strengths can then be decoded into items by the system that I showcased previously. Over here, we have the system that appends 3 characters to our package name at the front. I already showcased this in the other video. And this is basically the same concept, except instead of shifting 2 characters, we shift 3, because we're reading 3 characters and we don't want to read a character twice. So over here is all of that together. We have our sequencing module down here, the crafting slot encoding module over here, the item buckets up here, although these are slightly modified due to space constraints. We have the module here that places down the minecart contraption, and we have the crafters in front. This here is just some input circuitry to make sure that our inputting system works as expected. The package goes into this andesite funnel first. It then triggers the smart observer here, which will lock the andesite funnel through the powered latch. So no other package can be accepted while this powered latch is toggled on. We also are able to read the package name from the display link, although that isn't applied just yet. That's just for later. The powered latch then unpowers this redstone torch. If the system back here, which I will explain later, also does not power the target block and thereby this redstone wire, we get a short pulse on this trapdoor because the redstone turns off, so the trapdoor closes, but the redstone torch doesn't yet turn on to reopen the trapdoor. So when that redstone dust turns off, we get a short pulse on the trapdoor, which is then propagated to the observer underneath here, into this light concrete, into the pulse observer that it inverts the pulse and allows the display link to copy the name of the package onto this sign down here. After that has happened, we turn off the signal to the funnel, which enables the funnel and spits the package out onto this belt, where it then runs across all of the modules, and these are set up to read a single bit from the package name to determine whether that specific slot that I'm currently running over should be enabled or not. After that is done, the package is picked up by this belt funnel, it is destroyed, and the contents are placed into this barrel, where the minecart contraption is filtered up by this filter here, goes into this hopper, into the dispenser. The smart observer on the hopper detects that, sends out a pulse to trigger the dispenser to place down the minecart contraption, and also disable the deployer to wrench it again, just so that we can wait for the minecart contraption to set the item filters. So the minecart contraption will be placed on the slope, it'll roll down a bit, that rolling motion will make it apply the filters to our brass tunnels here. Then after a while, the deployer is re-enabled, it'll wrench the contraption, and spit it out onto this belt up here. Then after a while, we can disable the signal going into this funnel, which will enable it, and pull all of the items that are still left in the barrel into the brass tunnel setup. And because these brass tunnels are now filtered to the items of the craft, each item will go into a fixed position. The package itself was destroyed up here, but the package name was copied onto this sign. So after all of the stuff up there has happened and the items are set up correctly, we shortly pulse this packager here to copy the package name onto the package sitting inside of this vault here. And that sort of initializes the phase where we start populating our mechanical crafter with items. So the package is renamed to the new name, picked up by the hopper, put out onto the belt. It goes underneath all of our smart observers, which generates the sequence for the first 5 items. It then goes around here. It's split off by this brass tunnel here, and just goes back across here, where it's being picked up into the vault again. And as long as it doesn't match the pattern encoded in this smart observer, which is this pattern here, it will be submitted for another run. We have 21 slots in our crafter, and if we round that up to the nearest number divisible by 5, that's 25. So we need 25 pulses at most to encode our sequence. 25 pulses need 15 characters to be generated, and because we need 15 characters, we are done once we can read 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs of our filler sequence. Because if we have read 4 pairs of our filler sequence, that means that the 5th pair has been read out and the package has returned from that. So that means that we have read the entire package name for all of the data that we can get from it. As long as that's not done, we use this display link hidden behind here to read the package address, make it longer, transmit that onto this sign, and then re-encode the package with that new name. And then we will get to read the next couple characters. And once we're done with that, the smart observer down here will detect it and send a signal through this redstone link back to the top. As soon as the package is not ready, this redstone torch here will turn on because this redstone link turns off. And this pulse extender will begin to permanently power this redstone here. So even though we don't have a signal coming from here, our funnel is once again being permanently locked. Then once our sequence finishes, this redstone link turns on, which means the redstone torch turns off. The pulse extender will hold this power for another 4 seconds and then turn off. This redstone torch tower here will shortly put a pulse onto this rail, which is then propagated by the observer and the pulse repeater, and that here resets the powered latch at the top. As you might remember, we initially set the powered latch here into the powered state to lock the funnel, and once the sequence is done, after a while, this means that we unlock the funnel again to allow the system to accept more items. This system is 5 wide tileable in an A-B tiling pattern, which means that I have 2 variants, A and B, which together allow for a pattern that is repeatable every 10 blocks. This is probably quite a weird restriction, especially with how unuseful the system is in general, unless you're playing a very specific mod pack. But it's cool, and I wanted to do it. The completed setup also has this part here, which is just a rotary belt going around, passing by all of the inputs of each module. The thought behind that is that if we have a package that is currently not able to be accepted by any of the modules, it'll constantly spin around on here. That means that as soon as a module is free, eventually that rogue packet that doesn't have a recipient yet will be directed towards it and will find it. Alright, I think that's enough explanation. I'll start showcasing it now. And for that, I have 3 examples prepared. 2 of them I've already set up, just so I can show you how it works. And then the third one will actually encode together in order to show you how you would use this system. So the first one is this Extendo Grip on the depot, which I've set up to automatically replenish Extendo Grips. As I said in the other video, Extendo Grips are one of the few items in Vanilla Create that are not able to be crafted inside of a normal crafting grid. You have to make them in this mechanical crafter pattern here. So if I grab the Extendo Grip, the requester here will request a new Extendo Grip, but it'll also set the... Oh, we have a lot of Extendo Grips in the system here, it seems. 1 second. So now, because now we have one. Now if I pull one off the line, you can see that this is displaying now that we're crafting Extendo Grips, and 2 packages are on their way to the system. They're now combined into one and assigned to this crafter. We've started to put in the grip pattern, and now we are laying down the items in the order to build Extendo Grip shape. There's the Extendo Grip, and the module is reset, and there it goes back to the storage. Green all across the board, except for this one. Next, I have an integration with a shop. Maybe you want to automatically sell hard-to-make items, and hard-to-make can also mean you need a giant crafting grid. So crushing wheels are the obvious candidate for that, so I set them up here. I can buy crushing wheels. There they come. And there goes the craft for extra crushing wheels that are now missing from the system. Again, they're recombined, assigned to the system here. All of the items are taken out. And now we can see the crushing wheel form slowly appearing in our crafting grid. I apologize for this slightly crappy visualization. I can't really back up anymore because of these. And there go the crushing wheels. Back into the system here. And we are happy again. So now what I want to do is I would like to be able to sell potato cannons. I've set this up to exchange a piece of paper detailing why we want a potato cannon for a potato cannon. But as you can see, potato cannons are currently out of stock. Oh no. What will we do about that? Well, I'm gonna tell you now. God, fuck, that was cringe. So the way to start our crafting journey is coming over to the minecart contraption setup that I have prepared over here. You will probably want to build a similar contraption to this. The important part of this is the block spacing. Anything else can be improvised. This doesn't have to be light gray stained glass. You could even glue this if you wanted. But the chassis is just easier to do. You want to make sure that the entire thing assembles when you power the minecart assembler down here. Next step is inserting your items. I'm just going to do it in this order. You can do it in whatever order you want. Just make sure that you remember where you put all of the items. So in my hotbar, I have all of the ingredients for potato cannon, and I will put them into the deployer hands in this order. We can then assemble the contraption and wrench it, and I'm going to rename it so I don't forget what this is for. One important thing, the amount of minecart contraptions you have for a single recipe limits the amount of that recipe that can craft at the same time. So if you want multiple recipes in parallel for crushing wheels, for example, what you'll have to do is you'll have to set up multiple of these. And this is where it's important that you set them up to be exactly the same. And that's why I recommend chassis over the glue, for example, because with the glue you have to make sure to set your glue points exactly the same, because otherwise the NBT will be different and your contraptions won't stack. And the contraption stacking is how the factory gauge is able to determine that they are indeed the same contraption, so that multiple recipes can pull from the same pool of contraptions. I've now set this one up to be exactly the same as the one that I already have in my inventory. And if I wrench it and rename it, you can see that they stack in my inventory. You then want to come over to your crafting board and make a new setup for the item that you want to craft. I've already done the obvious stuff. I've injected all of the normal crafting ingredients and set the values in here, but I haven't set up any of the limits or the recipe name or anything yet. You want to add another factory task for the craft potato cannon minecart contraption that we just created. I'm going to put these into this storage where I have all of my cart contraptions set up. This is separated from the main storage, mainly just for organization reasons. You can now see that we have 2 of those in storage, and I will now make a new connection to these. Now is where it gets tricky, because now we need to actually encode our data inside of the name here. And for that, I have made a tool that you can use. So the link for this website will be in the video description. And I'll just quickly demonstrate how to use this. The first thing that you want to do is you want to form your configuration inside of this virtual crafting grid here. So our potato cannon is crafted in this shape, where we have sort of 1 full row and then 2 in the row below. We could probably also do it in this row and then toggle these, but this is just how I've chosen to do it. Up here, we want to input the sequence that we want to draw out of the buckets. So in our system, we had the pipes in the first slot, the copper ingot in the second slot, the andesite alloy in the third, and then the precision mechanism in the fourth. What we need for our crafting recipes, we need alloy, mechanism, pipe, 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 ingot, ingot. So we need the alloy first, which is in slot 2. We need the precision mechanism, which is in slot 3. We need the pipes, which are in slot 0. And we need the copper ingot, which is in slot 1. And if you've matched everything correctly, it should give you a code here and a code here. You want to combine them into your package address. You grab the first string and put it at the start of your message. You then place a pipe character down, grab the second string, and put it directly after that. And then you can start addressing your actual address, which sadly, because of how not compact this is, you only get 3 characters to do that, but I just called it +CR. This is the sequence that I have chosen for this. And it started crafting already. This is not good. So the frog that receives this address looks like this. We have a star for anything before that, then we have a plus, and then the CR. And now I'm going to let these 2 packages off the leash, and I'm just going to hope that they will combine into our potato cannon, because that means that I've made everything correctly. Here's our potato cannon shape. That works. We have our andesite alloy, precision mechanism, pipe, pipe, pipe. And then our 2. And here it is. I cancelled the craft out of panic, so it doesn't actually show completion here, but if I set it to make 1 item, you can see that it's green, and this here has a little check mark on it. Our minecart contraption has also returned into our shared barrel here, and is ready for the next craft. So if we now grab our item that I stashed in this barrel here, and we try to buy a potato cannon, there it goes. Here it comes. You can grab it along with the crushing wheels that I forgot to take out. And in the back here you can see another batch of potato cannons being made. A final word of warning for this system here make sure that if you tile this, you assign all of the redstone links a new channel, because crosstalk between two different modules here is not really something that is easy to debug. So you want to make absolutely sure that you assign each of these a unique frequency. There's 5 sort of link groups in total that you have to worry about. The first one is this one here, which picks up the redstone link signal from the smart observer and puts it into the module here. The second one is the one that picks up the task for the deployer from here and places it onto the deployer itself over here. You then have a signal down here which talks to a redstone link up here to transmit the signal strength for what item to pull next. There's a frequency up here that is sending down here to tell the system when to start the initial package reading loop. And there's another frequency down here which sends the readiness status of our system to the redstone link up here. All of these need to be a unique frequency for each module that you tile down. So just pick a common theme for every single module and then you should be fine. So this one here is the copper theme, this one here is the iron theme, and I have just raw iron in these, and then because they are different here, I have cooked iron and cooked copper in these. So that was my first proper setup using the package name technology. I hope you enjoyed it. It might have been a little less theoretical than the previous one, but I somehow still doubt that it was any more digestible. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. Or another thing that I was going to announce here is that I am actually not going to make my own Discord, as some of you have requested in the comments, just because I cannot moderate that on my own currently. But one of my friends who's also doing this sort of create technical stuff already has a Discord, and they've offered me to basically just redirect traffic from me to that Discord to hopefully strengthen that community a bit more, and also give me a place to interact with people other than the YouTube comments. So I'll put a link to that in the description, and hopefully I'll see you over there. I am not quite sure how I will distribute this. Maybe it'll be a world download, maybe it'll be a schematic, it'll probably just be this world here. There's some fun development artifacts around here, so if you're into that, you can just look at that and have fun.